Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Public Sector Catering Future of the Service webinar on catering colleges. We're just going to let people log in for a couple of minutes, so please bear with us. Today's lineup, we have an interview with Molly, which we recorded a couple of days ago, and then we will be going into a panel discussion with Molly herself, Sue Kenyon, Executive Director of PACE, and Amanda McDade, Head of Careers and Education at Springboard UK. The event will be chaired by David Fode, Editor of Public Sector Catering magazine. So we'll just give it another 30 seconds or so for people to log in, and then we'll pass over to David. Please, if you want to post questions today, please use the Q&A function. And if you just want to chat with other participants, please use the chat function. Okay, I'm going to pass over now to David. So,
yeah, good morning. I'm David Fode, editor of Public Sector Catering magazine, and thank you for joining us for the latest in our series, The Future of Your Service. Today we're going to focus on catering colleges, and we're doing this in association with PACE, the Professional Association of Catering Education. I mean, as with every other part of the public sector, coronavirus and COVID-19 and the lockdown restrictions that have come along have presented catering colleges with plenty of challenges. They've just reopened for the new academic year after a lengthy closure, and they're juggling to manage social isolation together with presenting online and in-person teaching for their students. But while some of their lectures can be done online, there really is no substitution for teaching in the kitchen and learning alongside a chef lecturer. In a moment, we're going to play an interview with Molly Shaher, Chair of PACE, which we recorded earlier this week. And this will be followed by a live Q&A session with Molly and two co-panelists. And this will be your chance to put questions, and we very much hope that you'll be able to participate. So we'll meet the panelists who'll be joining Molly, and I'll ask them to introduce themselves. First off, we've got Sue Kenyon, Executive Director of PACE.
Good morning, or nearly afternoon, should I say.
Sue, do you mind just sort of very briefly telling us about your role in PACE?
Yes, sure. So I've been with PACE for many years, more than I'd like to acknowledge really, but since 2003, and before that I was with the National Association of Heads of Catering. So in those years we've continued to network with colleges up and down the country. Obviously Molly's been our chair now for 3 years, I think it is now. A very popular choice, I must say. But before this we had about 450 colleges working with us. Obviously over the years that's eroded down to about 170, so there are less of us, but you know, the quality in those colleges is really excellent, and they've been coping so well over the last few months, it's unbelievable. So we have a role of really networking and supporting at PACE.
Thank you very much. That gives us a bit of an idea for those who are not familiar with PACE. And we've also got Amanda McDade. Amanda.
Hi there, hi. Yes, Amanda McDade, National Head of Careers and Education for the Springboard charity in Springboard UK. Springboard exists to promote careers in hospitality and tourism. So we do a lot of work with education, with schools and colleges and industry, bringing them together through various programs and various interventions. So yes, that's where we sit in the kind of landscape.
Okay, thank you very much. And just before we get fully underway, it might be worth just reminding ourselves how these webinars work. Other than Molly, Sue and Amanda, everyone else will be muted. So if you want to get in touch during the webinar, and as I say, we very much encourage you to do that, there are two ways to do it. You can put a question to the panelists using the Q&A function. Make sure you include your name and company, please, and keep this to questions if you can, rather than comments or statements. That way we can make the most use of the time available. You can post a question at any time, don't have to wait until after the interview. And the other way that you can get involved is to share a comment, which we also encourage you to do. For that, you use the chat function, and remember to choose the option to all the panelists and attendees. We won't, unfortunately, be able to answer any questions that you put into chat. And just before we run the interview now, it's my great pleasure to introduce Molly to anyone who doesn't know her. She's been chair of PACE since 2018, and in her day job is the curriculum team leader for the catering, hospitality and service industries at Middlesbrough College. She was named among the top 20 most influential people in 2019 by Public Sector Catering magazine. She graduated from Teesside University in 2003 with a degree in accounting and finance, and has been in her current role at Middlesbrough College since 2009. Over the last 4 years, she's added to the college's portfolio of courses, making it one of the few in the country able to deliver hospitality and catering courses all the way from entry level to level 7. She's also written a master's course for the college, which it began last year. And she also leads a partnership of colleges in the North East to bring the Royal Academy of Arts Adopt a School programme to the region, which for the first 15 years of its existence operated almost entirely in the south of England. So that's Molly. And now let's hear that interview.
Right, so good morning, Molly. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, David. How are you?
Yeah, fine, excellent. Let's crack on then. What have been the main concerns among your members ahead of the new academic year?
I think, especially with what's happened with the pandemic, one, because of obviously we rely on numbers of students coming in. So one of our concerns was, are we going to get any catering hospitality students? Basically because of what was going on in the industry. The other concern was then obviously getting them back into an industry and into a college where a lot of it is now starting to go online, and we're very practical based. So I think it was getting around that creativity of getting the students in to a building to be able to do a practical subject. I think that's been one of the main concerns, as well as how are we going to get any students?
Okay, and assuming that you do have some students, I mean, how are teaching staff adapting to the way they have to deliver their curriculums now?
I think we've adapted well because they've looked at it upon the fact that all theory modules for a lot of colleges is literally going online, and with everything that's going on, especially the winter months coming ahead and obviously waiting for another lockdown, I think a lot of colleges have tried to focus on delivering theory up front, ready for after Christmas coming back, and then doing practical towards later. Some of it I've took on the basis of doing a bit of, so literally theory is online, but more practical subjects, trying to get as much as they can done as quick as possible, while it's still not got to the winter months and the lockdowns happened. But that comes along with a lot of problems, because you can, with the distance in a kitchen, you can still have to distance the students. So there's only so many that can get into an academic kitchen at the moment. So that causes a lot of concerns as well.
Okay. What about training restaurants in colleges? I know they can be an important part of what you do. What difficulties are you having there?
I think the difficulty is a lot of training restaurants are quite small anyway, and the lot of the clientele is of an older generation, and that's always been the case in colleges. So that is also the vulnerable group. So we're not wanting to bring in a vulnerable group along with the younger generation that wants to serve them, and then obviously socially distance. I think for colleges, we're still wanting to, because obviously we've got hospitality students and they need to do front of house service, especially because it's part of as much as their curriculum as anything. You've got to practice how to serve somebody. So what we're trying to do is trying to engage the external customers but in a smaller periods of time. So where we'd have one every week or service every couple of days on an evening or during the week, we try to limit it to at least once a week, or trying to gradually bring them in as much as we can. But it does cause a massive concern with the age clientele of the customer.
I can imagine. Is there any guidance from the government on how you should operate in these circumstances?
For colleges, it's just exactly the same as what's going out in industry. We need to socially distance. We need to go to the maximum of 6 in a household. We still need to have track and trace. It's the colleges are fantastic of doing track and trace anyway. It's different. Also, it's not where you walk in off the street and think, oh, just got to a college for food today. Everybody signs in anyway. They always come for a booking, so we always have a track and trace system. The only, for my own college as well, I presume with all the other colleges, the only track and trace we don't normally do is when a staff member comes in for a cup of tea, a scone, just for lunch. But now that's easily put in place. We just have a track and trace system, so we know who's been into the restaurant. So from that point of view, we're already set up and run and always have done the track and trace system.
Right, okay. Just thinking more broadly now about the across all the work that you do. I just wonder, is there anything that the government could do, any decision it could make that would help colleges to handle the challenges that you currently face?
I think for the government, there needs to be more clarity of what they want from us. They keep saying that we want the colleges open, we want the schools open, we want hospitality open, then they're shutting it down again. And from a college perspective, I think they look at the restaurant as a very small part within a college. They're looking at it from a whole holistic point of view. And I think the government needs to give guidelines for different sectors as well. So they're giving it, like you say, we know in our industry, they're trying to close a lot of the pubs down for 10 o'clock. Well, college restaurants are already shut for 10 o'clock. We should be allowed to run it as we have done in the past anyway. I think the guidelines is very difficult for education because they're trying to lump it all in one. And I understand the government have many issues trying to lump everybody under the same criteria. So from a guideline point of view, we've already had the guidelines, and to be fair, we used to follow it practically 80% of it anyway prior to the pandemic.
Okay. And what about suppliers, the food, drink and equipment suppliers that you have sort of working relationship with? Is there anything that they could do that, or they're perhaps already doing that helps you?
Well, they're already doing a lot of new incentives themselves, because they lost a lot of custom in the colleges. Colleges are a big part of the supply chain. It's a big customer. So they had to adapt themselves, and they're doing a lot of home deliveries themselves and home packages of food. And it may be something they could come in and work with the colleges and say, this is what you can do to adapt. And we can still supply you, but the college could put a food pack together that they can sell. The problem we have is supplies will do anything and everything to support us. Is colleges are trying to stop externals coming in, and is trying to stop that footfall of where the track and trace is, and they're trying to deal with their own students. So it might be the fact that supplies now will have to just do like Zoom meetings and team meetings like everybody else, and it might be that they could do some webinars and masterclasses how they could support us additionally, and I think that would be good from a supplier point of view.
All right. Now you made sort of reference earlier to the importance for front of house students of the training restaurants, but I'm just thinking front and back of house. Just how important are these restaurants for the education of students?
Especially at the moment, it's massive compared to normal, because all the students, to be fair, a lot of them have always worked in industry, but a lot of them have been furloughed or had not been took on anymore. They're missing the work experience externally that they would get outside of in an industry. So to not have it in the college, in 2 years' time, 3 years' time when they're due to leave, what experience have they had? As an employer, would you be willing to take somebody on who's had nothing? They've never served a customer. They've never ran a commercial kitchen. They've not done any work experience, and they haven't got a job in industry. we're setting them up for a failure. So it's detrimental towards that our college restaurants keep running, so we can keep some like industry specialism in there within their criteria. So the least they can walk away and say, but we have served the customers every week. We have served externals. We have done events, within a college environment.
Right. Now, thinking about the members, your members, what have you been able to do during the lockdown to sort of facilitate sort of networking, sharing information, and sort of helping people to understand what other people are trying and how it might work for them?
I think for PACE, what we've tried to do is, obviously we've been a middleman, a network system, and it might be a college in the south that's got something creative going on, and we'll pass it on to all the other members. Competitions at the moment, we're a big advocate of getting competitions out there, so the students have got something additional to the added value to their learning experience. All that's changed and gone online and it's gone virtual, so we're always passing on to people what's happening there, how people can adapt with the lessons. They'll have good practice in different colleges. Every college is an individual, and it depends on what their management and their sector want. But we're an advocate of passing on information to people, and we'll just keep what is out there. We will let them know as much as we can all the time. And sometimes it's just sharing best practice and having a conversation with each other. That's what the members of PACE like to hear.
All right. Now we mentioned just now the importance of the training restaurants, but thinking about lectures, about training in the kitchen under sort of tuition, obviously that becomes a lot more difficult under the sort of current circumstances. Is this going to have an impact on the education the students are getting right now?
I think for the students, it does have an impact, but they've been given an added value at the other side of it. Hospitality is a very practical subject area, but technology is moving very, very fast, and we're always behind. We've had to now step up, and from an educational point of view, them students are now learning to be creative and also understand how technology can support the industry. So in a couple of years' time, when they go into industry, they're going to be the potential new students, a new generation of showing hospitality service, but with that added element of technology. So it is difficult in a classroom, but you'd be surprised. Students are so used to IT. They're always on the phone. They're always being creative, so they've been more adaptable to actually the staff, because the staff are the old dinosaurs who didn't have that in their industry when they learned. So there's good and bad in all of it. And I think what we've learned is students who love hospitality and love catering will always adapt, and they've been so creative with the things that they've done, and as well as the staff supporting them.
Oh, that's a lovely positive message.
This is.
Moving on now to work experience in the workplace, and I know you've spoken about this before, and about how you wish there was sort of more of it, and more employers would be open to the idea. I just trying to get some feel for you now about how the lockdown has affected even the limited amount that was available.
Yeah, well, it's added to the limited amount that's available, and you can appreciate from our employers when you're trying to not furlough your staff and not make them redundant, then bring a whole load of college students in, say, but we're giving them all this free work experience. It's very, very difficult. There's a risk, obviously, because there's not many people within the industry to support the students, and obviously we don't want any student to be added as well to a COVID risk as well. But I have seen, like I say, as PACE, we have seen that employers who did want students with work experience are now zooming into classes, and they're giving a lesson from their restaurant kitchen and how kitchen is still working or front of house. So they are doing additional master classes where before they would come into college or students would go out to visit them. So this is the bit where we're learning where that technology can step in place of actually physically going to an industry. It's a difficult one, and we do want work experience, but at the same time, David, we don't want to put any students at risk, and we don't want to put the employees at risk. Because if somebody like I say, if a student in a college environment catering has COVID symptoms and goes into an industry, they close a business down, and that's what we don't want. So where this technology is now being advocated by students and staff, this is what we need to use.
All right. I wanted to move on now to catering education, cooking in schools.
Yes.
Now, there is supposed to be a certain amount given to students as they go through school, so that when they arrive with you, they have certain basic skills. I mean, is that happening? And if not, what's the impact on you and other colleges around the country?
I think a lot of it has gone. It's gone off the curriculum compared to what it used to be when we were younger. And I think if anything that's happened now, and I think, and I did tweet about this, if anything the government should take away from it now is when this pandemic happened, the biggest thing people had to learn was how to cook and how to cook at home. And it might be a young child, 13, 14, or even younger, having to care for their parents, and they couldn't cook. They weren't getting the free school meals anymore. So it should be put back into the curriculum, definitely at what's going on now, because the impact is, even if they don't come to college, we're not saying they all have to be experts and come to college. We just want them to know that if anything else happens, they can cook a fresh meal, they're getting nutrition, even, we all know, everybody loves the McDonald's. McDonald's everywhere shut down. You could only get certain foods and everybody had to cook fresh. Everybody was being creative, having to make something. And this is another skill that we need to teach them, even as a social skill, not as a career skill. And I think that's what the government needs to really look at the moment.
Oh, very important point.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the interest among young people in going on to college to learn catering hospitality. What's the interest like? What's the feedback you're getting from your members?
Well, it's funny, David, because we all thought, especially with what's happened to hospitality, it's closed down, nobody's going to come on the courses. All managements, from a strategic level, were very worried about our numbers. As staff, we were thinking we're not going to get students. Actually, for every college I've spoken to, numbers have gone up. But you've got to look at it from the point of view is it one, they've all learned to cook at home and all, it was cooking mad over the pandemic and people got interested in cooking. Is it a career they want to go into? Or the other side is, it doesn't matter what sector, when an organisation or a world has gone collapse, the only place, if there's no jobs, they have to go into training. And some of them have took it up thinking, I've never cooked before, actually, but I've liked it while the pandemic's happened, because that's what you were focusing on, was food and what you could cook and what was on telly. So it's given a massive interest. So the problem we had where we had a shortage of students has now been more students, but the problem now is getting them all into the right classes, and because obviously class sizes have got to reduce. So in a training kitchen where there's 16, we can only have 18. So that's doubled all the classes, and the numbers have gone up massively, which is a good sign for when everything's gone over that pandemic side of what's going on at the moment. Hospitality will grow, it will come back. We all need to eat, we all need to socialise, we all want to go out and see people. So all them students are going to be ready to set that trend back off again.
Terrific. And will they all want to open their own restaurant and be a celebrity chef, or do you think there might now be an opportunity for like the health and social care sectors in particular to showcase the sort of careers that are available there, especially given the focus that's been on those sectors during the lockdown?
I think a lot of students, when they worked in industry and lost their jobs, a lot of them went to help in hospitals and care homes. They did step up, they wanted to do their bit. I know that there's a focus, there's always a bad impression of the younger generation, but a lot of them stepped up, a lot of them went to work into all the hospitals, and they realised as well, no disrespect to doing 16, 17 hours a day, actually the care home, they're doing something well, and the NHS, they've got weekends off, they've got a good rota, they've got a good pay, they've seen a different side of hospitality. And it's a shame that a pandemic has had to happen for us to try and to keep telling students, you don't have to just be a chef in a restaurant or open your own place. There's a variety of industries you can go into, like the care sector, like the NHS, like the universities. You know, there's another side to it. And I think, as well as being an awful situation being in, is open people's eyes, especially in colleges and students where they can progress their careers.
Great. And finally, Molly, I just wanted to sort of get an idea from you about how optimistic you are about, catering education, looking over the next sort of couple of years or so.
The thing is, I am very optimistic of it, because in a time where in hospitality you never ever get a time to train, we're always busy, we're always moving to the next thing, there's a new trend coming, new people, new restaurant open, new hotel. This is a time where, you know what, as well as it's been, there's a positive. We've had to step back and think, you know what, it's time to retrain the younger generation and the people who are already out there, and let's get creative. So when it starts again, and it will burst out of the scene, we're ready to go from a hospitality point of view. So for me, I think it's an absolute positive that we've got to take forward.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Molly. That was all the questions I had for the interview, but plenty now to talk about in our Q&A session.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks for that. And before we take the first question, I'd like to invite our panelists for their initial thoughts. Sue, are you with us? Could you give us your reaction to that?
Yes, yeah. Obviously some very positive messages there, and I've been in touch over the summer with various colleges, and they've been so creative. They've been taking practical sessions in their own homes and videoing these to the students, and the students have been joining in the challenges. And apart from that, I think there are positives coming out, because the demographic anyway was due to rise this year, so there are more students coming through from schools. But as Molly alluded to, there are opportunities there for taking up new skills that they hadn't even thought of. And the returning students as well will be thinking about keeping their skills alive, and enrolling for new courses. Some of the colleges are putting on extra short courses to cover a variety of topics that will be very useful to them when they do go in industry, when it does spark up again, and it will.
Okay. Amanda, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, some fantastic messages there, Molly. It's really kind of encouraging to hear about the numbers that are coming through, and that there is this increased appetite for cooking and for training. A few things struck me was on some of the things that you said around IT, and I think that's a brilliant point, that our students will be coming out not only with cooking skills, but with increased digital skills, which are going to set them up really well for the future in industry, which will be increasingly kind of using that. And also just regarding the work that has been done in schools, I agree with you 100% in terms of what we need to do going forward to ensure that young people are cooking within schools, so that they are then coming through to college. But yeah, I found your whole message very inspiring and positive, and it's really great to see that at this time.
Okay, thank you. Now, I don't want to put a dampener on everything, but before we go on to talk about what catering colleges can do and might be able to do in the future, there was some a rather interesting survey that came out just today about the pubs and restaurant sector, saying that the employers there are expecting to cut their workforce, if things continue the way they are, by up to a quarter by the end of the year. So I do wonder to what extent there will be jobs available for your students should they take on catering education. What's your reaction, Molly?
It's a difficult one, David, and I know everything keeps changing daily. For the students, it is a difficult situation, and it is not nice to see that these jobs are going to be cut, but it is going to be only short term. When you think about a student joining today, they're on the course for 2 years. 2 years, we are going to be out of this pandemic. We are going to be ready to go. People are going to want to go out. They want to see places, and comes that, it's going to be a new set of new set of structures on the high street, new different hospitality, what's been in what we've always had. So there is going to be these jobs available at some point. So we're training them up now. Like I said before, we've got that time to train, so they'll have to train now, be ready for what's happening in a couple of years' time. We'll see new growth of entrepreneurs on that high street. We always have with the recession, and we will see with the pandemic.
Okay, thank you. Amanda, what can Springboard do and the industry more widely to promote careers in hospitality and sort of get people interested in signing up for the courses that Molly's members at PACE deliver?
Sure. Well, there's a few things that spring to mind. Just picking up on what Molly was saying, in looking 2 years down the line, we've kind of pulled together a fairly ambitious framework, which is looking at what the industry will look like in 2022 and how we prepare for that. So between now and 2022, we'd expected 30,000 young people to come into our industry. Now, we're aware with the job situation and with everything that's going on that might not occur to those levels. And what we're doing is we're working with a huge cohort of young people and gathering kind of support for that from government and from industry to work with around about 100,000 young people to signpost them, to help them make sense of the landscape. So to be signposting them to colleges, to training, apprenticeships, but not only that, that we would then support 10,000 of those young people right through into employment. So we are working on a really, as I say, ambitious kind of plan to make that happen. The other thing which is really important is that we can't drop the ball when it comes to our messaging about the industry and promoting the industry within school. We at Springboard do a kind of program called Future Chef, which gets young people cooking in the kitchen from a really kind of young age. We start at 11-year-olds right through the high school journey. And along that journey, we link in with colleges and we link in with industry. And we've had to quite quickly adapt, just like the colleges have, to bring some of that online. So we've now got a lot of curriculum kind of led and industry-led resources for young people. And we're doing a lot to kind of encourage schools to take part and to engage and to get young people cooking, because that's ultimately what we need to do. We need to get them cooking so that they can begin to feel that passion and excitement for food and begin to think about their future careers.
Okay, thank you. Sue, do you share the optimism that no matter the sort of the short-term problems that the hospitality and catering industry is going through right now, especially the retail side, that it can bounce back and will do?
Yeah, definitely, because I think we've seen over the lockdown many restaurants adapting what they do and what they provide. You know, there's a pub near me, Aidan Burn, has the pub out at Lim, and they've even added a delicatessen to their mix. So there's businesses doing all sorts of things like that. I still see adverts actually for staff, people needing staff. So I think restaurants are going to emerge, they're going to regroup, they're going to rethink their offer. They've all been obviously sending out boxes, Luban in Liverpool sending out boxes to families that are not very well off, supported by the local government. So those boxes go out to a family with enough ingredients to cook for a family of 4 with all the instructions in them, because they are aware that they don't cook or haven't cooked before. So that's a positive. But I think all the restaurants and hotels are beginning to adapt. And, you know, we're entering an even bigger digital age as well now, which is a good thing. And obviously all the college lecturers and managers have been upskilling themselves and arming themselves with a new battery of tools, if you like, to provide the students with their curriculum. So I am very optimistic. It will come back.
Okay.
And I believe there's news today coming about the furlough scheme being extended, so that's good.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think everyone's waiting to see quite exactly what the Chancellor says about that. Molly, if I can come to you now and just pick up on that point that Amanda was making about working with schools. What is the secret of getting that connection between schools and the colleges that will help to drive or drive students through, but to get them to sort of just get interested in thinking about a career in catering and hospitality in the first place?
It's the same with college students. When I go to a lot of schools with the chefs and we go and do even just a class on a night time, or going to teach them how to fillet a fish for their exam, they love seeing somebody different. We've all been that young student who will get sick of our own teachers. My students get sick of seeing me. They like to see somebody else. So it does enthusiastic when they see another member from the public, another chef, when they see a proper chef going in with a chef white jacket on or front of house all dressed up. They do like to see that and they engage more in it. But I think this is the time, like Amanda said, because all the younger generation, like all of us, have had that time to cook at home while it's still there and it's all inspiring of all. And if you see anything on Facebook and the students were tweeting and doing Snapchat, it was all around food in the kitchen with the family. We lived a life of what breakfast, dinner and tea, what we're all going to eat. So while that's in their minds, we need to keep focusing on that and like go into them schools. If we can't get into them, we can still do Zoom meetings and team meetings from a kitchen, and they can do it from their kitchen, and we can still go in and, you know, inspire them to keep that spark going, because it is what they've been doing for the last 6 months.
Okay. You're involved rather in the Adopt a School initiative. Yeah. Is that and are there other programs like it? Are they a help to you?
They are a help to us, and it's been difficult, like for Springboard themselves and Adopt a School. So Adopt a School's from even primary school. We've got then Future Chef with Springboard from to senior schools, and then we've got the colleges, we've got the university. We've got a whole sector of it going through the longevity of it all. The problem we have is, like on my own college, is going into them schools. They're trying to stop externals coming in. It's the problem we're going to have is anybody coming in with COVID symptoms, and we don't want to put any school in a situation where they have to shut down, same as they don't want to put colleges. So I can understand from a management point of view refusing to allow people. I think once it's settled in the next, and it is the start of the year for everybody, once it starts settling, hopefully after half term we'll start thinking, oh, we could move that next step, let a few people in, and hopefully it'll be the service sector, because that's who needs to be in. And I think all schools, colleges and universities, they know we need to be in them places.
Okay. Sue, we've talked a little bit there about the connection between schools and colleges. How about the one that follows on, the colleges through to the employers? What's the secret there to sort of helping to create work experience opportunities, but obviously ultimately career opportunities for your students coming through?
Well, we've been networking quite closely with employers for many years, and we will continue to do so. But I take Molly's point as well, that we've been a little bit remiss for not being in touch so much with the public sector. So that is a career opportunity that's going to be an excellent one for our students. So employers in that sector are going to open new doors for students, so they can realise that there are more opportunities out there than just hotels and restaurants, and it opens another dimension to their career opportunities from an employment point of view.
Okay, thank you. Amanda, just talking about the public sector, I mean, we've got schools, hospitals, prisons, care homes, the military, all of those, and universities, of course, all of those opportunities that are unlikely to be as badly affected as perhaps the high street. So is there something there that Springboard can do in helping to sort of get people to consider working in that sector as well?
Absolutely, and we do have a number of business partners and food service management companies that we work with to promote those types of careers and to promote the kind of the positives around it. Like Molly was saying in her chat earlier, that there are, you know, often better hours and more opportunities for kind of diverse working. So a young person could be working in a care home, or they could be working in a kind of office environment, or they could be working in a big events kind of sector. So there's lots of different kind of food service management opportunities out there. And like you say, some will definitely be less affected. We are aware that those who are kind of working in offices will be affected at the moment. But other than that, there are kind of still opportunities. And absolutely, we have our Career Scope website, which we encourage young people, anybody really looking for employment or advice, just to go on. And there's lots of information on there about food service management companies, about the opportunities, and also live vacancies as well. So we would definitely say that is a sector which won't be affected as much as high street, and that there are still opportunities, and we're still promoting that within our all of our programs. And right at the very heart of our Future Chef program, there's a lot of support that we get from food service management companies.
Okay, good, thank you. Molly, I wanted to sort of move on now to what you might call the sort of the nuts and bolts of what you do in the colleges. You've talked a little bit about the technology and how that's helping, but I'd be interested to sort of find out from you, what sort of things are your members doing in practical ways to give people the fullest possible catering education that they can get?
Well, I think as normal, they've always done a full educational programme. I think with the moment, because a lot of it's going online theory, a lot of more recordings have been done where normally you get time to re-practice and re-practice. So a lot of people are doing recordings of what they're cooking, or putting sessions on their staff members are doing sessions separate on their own and putting it online. So students can always pick up as well online. So any hours that they're missing, it's always going to be there available. I do know, like, for my own college, it was always the case where 9 till 5 students were in that environment. They're changing times as well, so where students, you can stay back later, so people are not all on public transport first thing on the morning. So they've even been flexible in the working hours for a student, and I think parents have appreciated that, because they are scared to send their students on a public bus when everybody's saying do not travel on a public bus. You have to, it scares a student coming to a college. Colleges are big places, a new place for a student. So adjusting even the hours of the curriculum and how the curriculum works. We always had sessions for lunchtime and breakfast. We've started to put sessions on an afternoon tea, more so than normal. So staff members can come for a coffee and a cake. So students can still do service, but at different times of the day as well. So adapting is a big thing that the colleges have done. Okay.
Sue, I wanted to ask you about assessment, because I think everyone can understand how, you know, an online course can be checked and marked. But when you're talking about the ability to be able to cook a dish, anyone assessing it needs to know what it tastes like. If you're talking about how someone works front of house, you need to be able to see how they interact with customers. So how is that side of your work as a college being impacted, and what ways round are people finding to make this work?
I think at the moment the majority, and I could stand to be corrected, but this is my understanding, is that they are forming bubbles, social bubbles within a college, so that you know, there might be 7 or 8 in a bubble, whereas normally you might have 16 in a kitchen. So that'll have to be halved. Some colleges are taking an approach, well, we'll have one group in this week and the other group in next week, so that they can do their assessments, and that's ongoing. Obviously the theory work is pretty much sorted, because they're doing that on social media, on using digital platforms, etc. But as you say, it's the practical side of things, where you've got to see things happening, you've got to taste things. And I think that's where these social bubbles within a college are going to come into their own, so that that can happen as safely as possible. I don't know if Molly has come, you know, if that's happening in her college, but I understand that's the case.
Molly, can you tell us?
Yeah.
So assessments can happen.
College,
and I think some colleges also, and what I understand as well is colleges are offering the opportunity for returners to come back and you know, hone in their skills, because they did miss a lot last year, and if they feel not very confident, they can go back this year at no extra cost to complete the course in a way that they would appreciate.
Okay, yes, sorry Molly, can you just come in there?
Yeah, just to add to that, I think, yeah, all the colleges have got the social bubbles in the catering, in the kitchens and in the front of house. And I think from any college point of view, once it all settles, they will allow assessors in. They know they have to, because the students are already in that secure bubble. It's just adding one more person in. As long as they're following the guidelines and the food, they're away from them and they're following the PPE, it shouldn't be a problem, unless we come into another lockdown again. But fingers crossed that'll be done correctly. They're just getting everybody settled at the moment, getting the students, and it's making the students and their parents know that the students are coming to college and it's a safe environment. So once that's safe, and it is, and numbers of COVID symptoms have reduced, we'll bring the assessors in. I don't think anybody's going to stop them coming in the end.
Okay. Amanda, I'd be interested to find out from you, with the Springboard competition in particular, how that's going to work under the sort of the current environment.
Sure. So we've obviously had to adapt quite quickly. At the moment, as Molly said earlier, schools are not allowing any externals into the school. So where normally we would be doing the Future Chef competition, running it in schools, bringing chefs into the classroom, getting young people out in fairly substantial numbers into colleges together to do cook-offs, we're having to reevaluate all of that. So we've had to move quite quickly and move things online. So a lot of the challenges and the kind of opportunities that we're kind of putting towards the students are online and are supported by the likes of people within industry, our supporters and the colleges. So for instance, some of our kind of cooking modules are introduced by chefs from colleges, and they might well be introducing a topic and teaching on screen how to kind of work through a dish or to work through knife skills, etc. And that young person will work through that with them and then complete tasks at the end of that to move on to the next level. The way that we've done it, we're hoping that it will mean that schools can deliver this in the classroom with a teacher, or in the event of a lockdown or any kind of regional lockdowns that might affect schools, that it will also be able to be done at home, so that the blending of a learning approach will be able to kind of move forward. But we are heavily relying on our sponsors and our industry supporters to help us with that, because we want everything that we do to be industry relevant, and we want it to be relevant so that they are learning those skills that they can take into the next step, whether that's in a kind of training environment and whether that's in the college, or if they're hoping to go into industry. So just like the colleges, we've had to put everything to a digital format. When it comes to the normal national final of Future Chef, that will be happening, but it will be happening remotely in the regions, in the colleges, with the regional finalists cooking off there, as opposed to coming together in a huge kind of setting, which we might not be able to guarantee that right. could happen. So yes, we've had to adapt quite quickly. We're hoping that our offering this year is far broader than it's been before, so because we're able to kind of do more sustained interventions, and that there's more kind of activities and more skills that the young people can learn along the journey. And so far we've seen 19,300 and something young people sign up for licenses for Future Chef this year. So we're excited about the appetite out there from young people.
Okay, thank you. Molly, we've got a question in. Someone's asking about what the sector can do to lobby the government to ensure there's a pipeline of students coming into the industry. Is that something you can answer?
I think it is, as well as all the, like I said, as the associations, I think we can get together and we can keep going on at the government. The industry is going to collapse, and as we know, the lockdown at 10 o'clock is going to have a massive effect on industries. Many companies, Pret a Manger, Premier Inn this week, Whitbread, are all saying the same. They're going to shut their jobs down. But I'll keep saying this, in 2 years down the line, we've got to think of a student as a long-term student. They're not short-term to us. And in 2 years down the line, we've got to make sure to the government that them students are going to come out and have a job somewhere. So I think us lobbying together that all the sectors are supported. There is a sector out there for, like I've said before, the NHS is a massive industry for students to go into, even for work experience. And the case has always been they've never been able to get in due to the risk assessment and the safeguarding issues. But a lot of them were dropped over pandemic to get people in to come and help very quickly. So that needs to obviously continue as well. So I think as a gathering together and telling them and fighting for the future in a couple of years' time, that we need to make sure that the government look at not just what's happening now, but what's going to happen for all these students, especially in primary schools, especially in secondary schools, like with the future chef, like Amanda said, coming into colleges and leaving here. It's same with the university students with TUCO. They've got a lot of students leaving. Where are they all going to? So we need to look long term. Okay,
thank you. Sue, can I come to you? Another question's come in, and it's talking about culinary competitions. Obviously, in the past, they've been an important source of education for catering college students. Do you foresee that college students will be able to attend these if they're set up in a COVID safe way?
I think that's going to be a difficult one. I think if they're set up in a COVID safe way, then possibly, but I would say not just now. No. I think it'll come, but we've seen, I do help to coordinate a few competitions, and we've seen the effects of these. I had to postpone one myself earlier in the year for the ACF. Nestle went online with theirs, for instance, which was quite successful, very successful indeed. But I think colleges at the moment are going to, if you like, advise lecturers and managers not to send their students out just at the moment. And I'm waiting to rearrange some of mine, but it's not going to happen just yet. I know it's not, because they've said that the college isn't going to look to let people into the colleges to use the kitchens from external sources, or for the students to be going out just yet until it is proved to be safer.
Can I just add to that,
I know that
David?
sounds a little bit pessimistic, but it's not.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, Molly. Yes, you wanted to follow up?
I think as well for colleges, we've got to be adaptable as well as staff. And I know it's difficult, we work long hours. So I know a college, a big competition came to me as a college and said, could you host this for us? And I went through all with the health and safety. And the easiest thing for me to do was, let's do it in half term. Half terms don't get used, but that's a detriment then to the staff, because the staff need the holidays. We want a break from the students, but colleges can adapt. So if we want competitions to go ahead, and like Springboard there, Amanda, what a better place when a college has got nobody in, but we're still open for certain little sectors. Use the kitchens then, use them on a Saturday, use them on a Sunday. Nobody, there's less people in them competition, in them kitchens, and using them resources. I know I have offered, when I did it, I offered 5 kitchens, a restaurant and a dem theatre, and I was willing to allow this competition to go ahead, work for 2 days, not running about. But it was a safer environment for the students to have a competition. So we need, with Springboard, Future Chef, all the apprenticeships, anybody want to bring in for competitions, we need to open the doors, and it's not just Monday to Friday anymore, and it's not just 9 till 5.
Okay, we've talked about the opportunities that there may well be within the public sector. I've got a question now. Someone's saying that's all very well, but sometimes the health and safety aspect can provide a barrier for employers to get students in on work experience. So what are you able to do to sort of persuade them that, you know, this can be made to work? What do you think, Molly?
I think with colleges, we safeguard students all the time. If we do any student goes on any work experience, from a cafe to a multi-million-pound business, we've got to have the public liability, the college's risk assessment, the employer assessment, the safeguarding. You've got to look at the public sector. They're already being safeguarded. From a private sector, we don't know if they've got a DBS, but from a public sector, everybody in that place is being DBS checked. So why then are we putting that barrier in? Because everybody's safe there. The colleges have already done it, and in the middle there's something that's stopping all the time. Some of them need to be reduced because they've already got the safeguarding issues on both ends. I can understand from a new company around the corner coming in and saying, oh, we'd have to go and check them out. We don't know who they are. But NHS, the Army, the Navy, they've all been checked in the first place. So why is that barrier there? I don't know who it is that we need to deal with, but something's got to drop to let the students go into the sector that at the moment is the sector that's needed the support.
Okay, fair enough. We are actually sort of starting to run out of time now. And before we do that, I think it would be nice to give each of the panelists an opportunity just to sort of give their sort of view about how things are going to develop within this sector over the next sort of year or two. Sue, would you mind just sort of kicking off? How do you see things panning out for your sector?
Well, obviously, these are new beginnings, these are new times. It's a question of adapting, and I think hospitality, whether it be in education, whether it be out in industry, have always managed to do that. With hospitality, there is always a plan A, B, C, and right down to Z if necessary. So I think new strands to companies are emerging, to hotels and restaurants. And I think it will be very positive. I think it's going to be, within 2 years, I think it's going to bounce back, and it's going to be, there's going to be exceptional opportunities for the students.
Okay, thank you. Amanda, you told us a little bit about the arrangements you've already made for FutureShare. I mean, how do you see things working out with Springboard and the work that it does over the next couple of years?
Yeah, I hope that we'll be right at the heart of being able to support people into the industry, whether that is via training in college or apprenticeships or whatever it might be. But we will continue to work with young people, with unemployed clients, and just share that message of the opportunities that are going to be there. Whilst we're saying at the moment, obviously the picture is not looking the greatest for our industry. Our industry will bounce back. It'll be the first things that people do once we're able to get, once the virus is gone and once we're over this pandemic, is that people will want to get back to their lives, will want to go out and celebrate and eat and go on holiday and do all of those things that we've not been able to do. And there will be opportunities. And I think that's the message that we need to get out there, as well as kind of putting a robust framework in place to help those people who are not sure where they're going at the moment, not sure how to kind of make sense of the training or the opportunities that are in front of them, or perhaps they don't even know. So our kind of job in the meantime is just to inform, to support, and to be able to signpost people into any opportunity that's in front of them in terms of training, upskilling, and getting them ready for employment.
Okay, thank you. And Molly, you told us earlier that actually you probably not got a problem at all with getting students enrolling in courses. Tell us a little bit about what they can look forward to over the next couple of years in terms of training and then job opportunities.
Well, I think what they can look forward to is they've got an enthusiasm for food at the moment. So we've got to hone in on that, because this is what's going on. We've got to send them out there saying, you are going to be the next future generation. If anything does happen, you are ready. They're ready to work with new employers. And them students that go out into that industry, they're going to be so savvy with technology. They're going to all them people who don't even know how to use their website because they're too busy cooking in a kitchen, or they're too busy running front house. These young ones are going to come in saying, we can do this, we can do that. Do you know, a lot of them are going to set up their own businesses more than ever. We've seen a massive growth in students just being creative and selling food, you know, because people need it. So we have got an optimistic, and we can try and get students to see food in a different light. It's not just about what we eat at the end of the day, it's everything, the whole supply chain. And I think if anything we took out of it is we understand even KFC have used it as an advertisement now. So, and every kid knows what a KFC is, and they've used it, even KFC is a massive company, they've used the pandemic to use their advertisements of what people were trying to make of their KFC crunchy chicken. Do you know, so students, everybody's getting involved, and we just need to keep exciting the students about food now, because it's in the forefront of what it's all we think about each day now. In case we go on a lockdown, where can we buy food and where it's coming from? So
that's lovely. Thank you very much. That, I'm afraid, has to be it for today. So my thanks once again to Molly, Amanda and Sue for being able to join us. There'll be a full link to the recording of this webinar available next week on our Public Sector Catering website. We'll be back on October the 8th, when we will be joined by Molly and the heads of all the Public Sector Catering Associations and organisations for an industry-wide review of the last 6 months and a look ahead at the next year or so. And that will be followed on October the 22nd, when we will be talking to Phil Shelley, who headed up the Hospital Food Review. Lastly, a word of thanks to the suppliers who support the Public Sector Catering 100 group, and without whom events such as today's webinar would not be possible. You can see their names on the slide that follows. See you on October the 8th. Goodbye.
Bye.